Hello and welcome to the Broad Street Hockey Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gilbert. Joining me, as usual, is my co-host, Joe DeMarini. Joe, we haven't recorded in 2 weeks now. We got a jam-packed episode here.
We do have a jam-packed episode, and that is not even covering any of the draft, really. So
Wow.
I finally started digging into the EP draft guide. I love it. It's one of my favorite. It's like a mini Christmas before the draft. And I'm starting to set aside some names of players that, they stand out to me, not just because I like them as a prospect, but also I could see the Flyers maybe drafting them at some point. And speaking of the draft, let's get it off the top.
Oh, right.
Yes. Draft party.
Yes. Draft party. That's Friday the 27th, I think the date is. Once again at Chickies and Pete's. So if you came out last year, going to be in the same spot. Chickies and Pete's right down there by the stadium complex. Chickies and Pete's was apparently surprised by how many people showed up for a Flyers event last year. So they now need a head count. They're selling $5 tickets. That is a donation to the Snyder Hockey Foundation.
Yep.
I mean,
you can buy them through All PHLY, I think. We're doing this with All PHLY.
All PHLY also has a VIP area, apparently, where it's a 3-hour open bar, meet and greet with a legend and stuff. $55 for an open bar. I mean, if anyone's down to get shit-faced with me at Chickies, I might have to do that.
I know. I mean, I'm gonna do that anyway, and I'm not even gonna need the open bar. I'm just gonna have to bankroll it myself.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be a grand old time, and we hope to see you there. It's Chickies and Pete's. I think they were told last year, a lot of people are going to show up for this, and they're like, "Ha, yeah, right." And
hockey? No way. Hockey in Philadelphia? No one cares about that. What year is it? 1997?
What year?
No way there. And, no way there.
Yeah, we're the crazy fan base, so it was a nice big turnout. I collapsed on the floor when they drafted Jet Luchenko. It was a good time. We'll see. We'll see who they draft that makes me collapse on the floor this time, or maybe they make a big trade and I collapse out of sheer joy.
Yeah, it should be an exciting draft. I mean, it looks like the Flyers might look up to trade into the teens, into the the double digits there if anyone drops down. So plenty of stuff there. And yeah, the elite prospect stuff. I was doom scrolling. I was like, all right, let me check out this draft guide, and I opened the big one, that the huge one. I'm like, there's scout. It's just so much information there. So I'm gonna have to view the maybe the condensed one, just get a thing there, because like you said, normally right now we'd be just talking all draft. There's going to be Frondell, Desnoyers, might have to go for Martone, might have to go for Brady Martin, Jake O'Brien is his name. It was Jay O'Brien.
Jake O'Brien.
Yeah. Will Hagen's fall? Could they trade up? But no, we got a ton of news here to get into. Also some rumors over the past few weeks. So first of all, make sure you guys subscribe to the Broad Street Hockey Podcast on YouTube, on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Helps the show grow. We appreciate all of that. But also, starting last night, one of the best hockey games I've watched in quite some time, just even as a casual fan. I mean, what a game one of the Stanley Cup Final.
I missed it because I was at a concert. So
I saw that. Yes, I saw you were at the concert. Yes.
Yeah, block party. Shout out my 2005 indie kids. Maybe I'll watch it tonight. I got time. I'll just watch the rerun. We were just talking about the draft party, and it's like, oh, maybe they'll get to have 3 picks, and it looks like one of them might be 32 at this rate. We'll see. It should be Go Cats, and we should not be afraid to say Go Panthers. They rule.
But they're dirty, Joe. They're dirty. They elbow everyone.
Boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. The Oilers employ Corey Perry and Evander Kane. Are we really...
Stan Bowman, too? Isn't Stan Bowman their GM?
Bowman
Bowman's GM.
Yeah. Fuck that organization, man. Didn't they have enough success once? Go Florida. And we need it to happen for Project 2026 McDavid to Philadelphia.
McDavid 2026 , yes. We need that. It's a must. He's the big fish out there. So we need to get some McDavid there. But yeah, I mean, it was a great game last night, back and forth. Panthers went up by 2 in the second. Victor Arvidsson answered right back. Panthers only had 2 shots on goal, I think, in the third period. Overtime was great. The only bad thing was, ending the game on a delay of game penalty, which, delay game penalties can be debated, but I mean, Draisaitl, another overtime winner, McDavid 2 assists, Draisaitl 2 goals, just those two guys just completely carrying the Oilers, especially with Zach Hyman out. Hyman was just a human wrecking ball throughout the playoffs, and one too many hits and dislocated his wrist, like torn some ligaments apparently. So he might not even
the hit that sent Hyman out didn't even look that bad. It looked like he just got clipped in the neutral zone, and it was like, well, that's the season. So
yeah,
I don't know.
Just a bad angle for him.
Just a bad angle. Do you have the Cats winning this, or?
I think it's either going to be Cats in 6 or Oilers in 7. I'm playing both sides, so I come out on top. It's going to be a long series, and the team's going to win at home. I don't know. I feel like, I feel like Knobloch going to McDavid and Draisaitl together so early could be a cause for concern for them. Obviously, he can go back and split them up, but I mean, it was when those two guys were on the ice, the Oilers were dominating, and then besides that, they didn't really get a ton of chances. But I mean, Bob came up big on a few overtime breakaways for Kasperi Kapanen and Evan Bouchard. Stu Skinner was good in net at the other end. So just great hockey all around, and not boring hockey like we saw with the Hurricanes.
Stu Skinner, I think the dream is dead there. I've moved on to a new goalie to target.
Who?
Connor Ingram.
Oh, Connor Ingram. Didn't he start like 20 some games in a row for Utah after signing that? No, that was Vejmelka. Because Ingram was in the program, I believe, after someone died, possibly his
I think it was his mother. His mom passed early in the season, and he just never recovered. But he's 28, which is exactly the age that I've been banging on about. And the 2 seasons prior to this one, he was trending in the right direction for an even worse Coyotes team than the Mammoth that he's on now. He's got 1 year left. This was kind of the year for him and Vejmelka to show which one of them deserves to be the 1A going forward. Vejmelka got the contract, started all those games down the stretch to try and get into the playoffs. I don't know. I don't know if they would trade him just because, like, why would you? You have a pretty affordable backup who has had good years in the past. But, might be worth a call. But anyway, the finals.
Another goalie that might be available after how he was handled in the conference final, Jake Ottinger. I mean, pulled after giving up 2 goals on 2 shots in Game 5 with no defense help in front of him. Go back to the bench for the timeout, goes back to the net, and then Pete DeBoer says, no, you're benched. And then DeBoer throws him under the bus after the game, says he hasn't been great in the past 2 playoffs. But no, Dallas would be insane to trade him. 26 years old, locked up until 2033, 8.2 cap hit. I mean, that would be the dream scenario up there with Swayman. I know there's Demko rumors out there now. At least one insider said that. At Demko, but he's hurt a ton, and like maybe if you get a healthy Demko and a healthy Ersson, it's a great tandem. But
that's a risky bet.
Yeah, very very much so. Which maybe if the Flyers don't do an offer sheet and don't have an unprotected first given up, it's okay for a year or 2. But we'll see what happens with the goaltending. Back to the finals though. Panthers game 2 on Friday night. Then we have 2 days off before the series goes back down to Florida. I just want a long series. I just want 6-7 games. Give me all the hockey we can get.
Yep. And one of those Panthers, he won a couple of awards. Barkov wins the Selke, and it was the King Clancy, I believe. How do you feel about this new format where they're surprising the players with the awards instead of doing the awards show?
I think I like it because the award show, like only the true sickos would sit down and be like, oh, the award show's on. I can't wait to watch this. I remember when I worked for NHL.com, like I worked the award show and we were just like, all right, let's wait for these clips to come in. And it was awful. It was the year there was the magician that screwed up and whatnot. But yeah, so for the awards, you're usually just like, all right, let's see on Twitter who wins it. And now it's the same thing. You're like, all right, let's see on Twitter who wins it. But it's with this great video that comes with it. We saw the Barkov one was great. The Kucherov one was great. And then you have written here the Masterson one, Deshaun Monahan with Gaudreau. Meredith Gaudreau, I believe her name is, giving him the award, surprising him. I have not watched it yet. I've read and heard it's a real tearjerker there, but yeah, I mean, this seems to be a slam dunk for the league. I mean, really, really a great idea because no one cares about the award show.
Yeah, I was on the bus when I watched the Masterton be awarded by Meredith Gaudreau, and I was like, oh, this was a mistake. I was like holding back tears. Yeah, no, I'm into it. Why not? Like, the players hated those awards shows too, especially Nikita Kucherov. Like, iconic to sit there and just be like, what am I doing here?
Well, you saw him in the video where they surprised him. I don't know if it was a GM or whatever. He was like, they're given the option to fly out to LA for the award show. He's like, no, I think Tampa's a pretty good place to vacation anyway.
It was fine. Yeah. Classic. Yeah. I love it. It was so good.
We do have the big awards to come. I believe all the big awards are being revealed next Thursday night before Game 4. I think that's the Hart and Vezina at the very least, which will potentially go to the same player, Connor Hellebuyck. And then I imagine the Calder and Norris maybe would be then as well. Maybe just the major awards there. Maybe the Adams. Maybe yeah, that's really all that's left.
The GM of the year one.
GM of the year. I forget what that's called. I can't wait for them to surprise just this middle-aged older man with a GM of the Year award and him being like, I don't care. Get out of here. I don't care. Get out of here. Let me
get off my lawn.
Exactly. Let me enjoy my day. All right. Cool. Shall we get into this some Flyers news here?
Let's do the Flyers. Danny has rewarded us with plenty to talk about.
Yeah, I was considering going chronologically, but let's just go like in order of kind of importance here. First of all, Tyson Foerster, a 2-year bridge deal, 3.75 AAV. I think this is a win-win for both sides. Like the Flyers, Danny W. Like obviously, you'd like to have Foerster. As you're projecting him moving forward, you know how good his defense is. You think his scoring is going to come around even more. You'd like to have him locked up for longer, but if he does develop the same way, you have the cap space to lock him up as he does that. And for Foerster, he's like, all right, let me get this deal now. Let me show that last year's 25 goals, which included 9 goals in the last 9 games. Like that's
a hat trick.
We had a 2-goal game and then a hat trick. But those are the games we talk about. Is that going to be maintained moving forward, or is that a Morgan Frost mirage? I think it's going to be maintained. A lot of those goals were pretty good there from Foerster sniping it. But yeah, he has room to grow, and his cap hit will grow as the salary cap grows. I mean, I imagine the salary cap's only going to keep going up.
My thought process, I usually would have been one banging the drum to be like, lock these guys up, get them done early, long term. You're going to be overpaying them the first 3 years, but on the back 5, you're probably underpaying them. But I've kind of come around on this bridge deal approach, because then you're signing them to their big deal when they're 25, not when they're like 22 or 23. So it finishes when they're 32, 33 and exiting their prime, rather than, you sign them at 22, they're still there at 30. You need to sign them to another huge deal, but it's going to really burn you on the back half. Mm-hmm. So this, from a just staggering the contracts perspective, is really quite nice. And for everyone who's going to say, well, you could have saved, instead of paying him $9 million for 8 years and 2 years, you could have paid him $7 million for 8 years. And I'm like, yeah, but if you're paying this guy $9 million for 8 years, he's probably a pretty good player and has earned that contract. Yeah. So I'm not mad about that. I'm into it. If he just keeps bridging players like this till they're about 25, so that they can do the 7 or 8 year extension at that point, cool. I don't know if Michkov will work that way, but we'll see.
Yeah, Michkov is now RFA year, the same year as when Foerster expires, but I imagine they'll get something done with Michkov before that. But great point by you. I hadn't thought about that. If you're signing them now, like you said, they're going to be a free agent when they're 29 or 30 and still have some good years left in the tank, but could age poorly. Now you're getting them, he's going to be 25, 26 when the contract expires. You get him 8 years then into his mid to late 30s. Hopefully you've won something by then, and he'll want to take, a hometown discount to finish his career with the team. So yeah, I think the Foerster contract's great. I like how they got kind of all this, not all of this done early, but Foerster, Cates done early. There's no whispers about, oh, are they going to trade Foerster for Rossi? Is there going to go to arbitration? Is there going to be, some back and forth, some bitterness on either side? No, you got it done in May when a lot of the fans aren't even paying attention. And it's like, all right, let's get the business done and move forward.
I mean, there were the rumors about Cates forcing arbitration, but this is, I don't know why he signed that deal, honestly. It's very team friendly. Like, the cap hit is good, the term is good. No trade protection. Like, yeah. 2 Danny W's this week. And then there's LJ Grans, who signed a 2-year extension. But
let's talk Noah Cates first. Noah Cates, 4 years, $4 million AAV. He is 26, takes him through the 2029 season when he'll be 30 there, UFA in that summer. So he just locks in, a middle six center spot for the next 4 years. If somehow you get a Rossi, Jet Luchenko turns into a star, McDavid or Eichel wants to sign here, that's fine. Put him on the third line, put him on the fourth line even. That's just a luxury to have. Put him on the wing where we thought he might be a winger heading into last season. And
that's what he played in college.
Yeah.
He was a winger in college, and then Sports was like, I don't have any centers, so you're playing center, and it worked out.
Especially he's a left wing, where the Flyers don't have a ton of left wing. So if he can slide over to the left wing, and like you said, no trade protection. So, if it comes to the point where you have an abundance of centers, he's always going to be a player that teams want. A shutdown center, can play third line, has some scoring touch. We saw him, have some good moves in front as well. So, but yeah, 37 points last year, 16 goals, career high. Seems to be what he is. A 40-point guy, good shutdown guy on defense. Just a solid middle six, hopefully bottom six center in a good lineup to have there.
That's the thing about him, though, is he's so versatile. He can play any role that you ask him to. Do you want him on your top line? Not for an entire season, but if one of your players, say Tyson Foerster, is going to miss 2 weeks with an injury, if you have to put Noah Cates on your top line, he won't be a star, but guess what? He's going to support the players he's with, and, it's not a long-term solution, but he can fill that role. Ideally, he's on the third line 90% of the time, but if you need him up in the lineup, he can handle it. That's valuable. And like you said, other teams will see the value in this, and his contract, as the cap goes up, will be just a steal. So if they do need to trade it, or someone offers them a haul, done.
What you're talking about sounds like all the on ice Swiss Army knife can move up and down the lineup. Teams are going to want him. Scott Laughton, looking back at the contract that Chuck Fletcher signed him to, 5 years, $15 million. People didn't love that contract. 3.1% of the cap that was. He was coming off a 20-point season. Granted, those were the shortened season. His career high is 43 in points. Great guy in the room. Probably better than Cates. I don't know what Noah does in the locker room there, but
better player or better leader?
Better in the locker room. Cates is better on the ice. So
for sure,
whatever you want to balance out there. And here, Cates 4.2% of the cap, and that's only going to go down as the cap goes up in these coming years. And looks like you got a few signing bonuses, so I think that helps. Total salary in the final year of the deal is $3 million. Even easier to move if you do have to. But a versatile player. Hopefully, a wing or bottom six player once the Flyers are able to completely reload up. But like I said before, getting him signed, not going to arbitration, 4 years, $4 million, tidy piece of business there.
4 more years of the floodgates.
Open the floodgates.
Open the floodgates. Oh, baby.
And then you mentioned...
I'm excited. I'm glad he's here. Grans.
Okay, Grans, 2 years. I'm trying to find here him on cap wages. 787,000 ELC. I imagine it's a two-way contract.
This is a bridge. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was on his ELC, I think. So this is his first bridge deal.
Yes.
League minimum. He hasn't played in the NHL much, so this makes sense.
His AAV's going down. He had a 900,000 AAV. Now it's 787.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Interesting signing there by Rob Blake to sign onto that 4-year deal as a cap hit percent 0.8%, less than 1%. Yeah, he's hopefully a good guy to have for some AHL depth. And then we saw him come up, play a few games last year. He was perfectly cromulent in his third pair minutes.
Perfectly. And with Risto out with injury, there's a path to him getting on the team to start the season.
Yeah. Because, you got Bonk, but I don't think Bonk's going to be ready, and they're not going to want Bonk to start the season in the NHL unless he really impresses in training camp. So having Grans there, having, these other guys, Zamula, Sealer, whoever, can just plug that hole for a bit is going to be nice to have.
The way the rumors are going, we might have Nic Hague, but we'll get into that one later.
We can get into that. We can get into that now. We've talked about the three hard news things here. We'll talk about York Pelletier and other stuff, but Nic Hague, not Robert Hague. Is it? It's Nic Hague. Nic Hague rumors. Apparently, Friedman said that the Flyers have been linked to him. There were some other reports that Flyers are talking a defenseman for winger swap, and I was like, all right, whatever. Nic Hague, Golden Knights defensemen are typically pretty good if Flyers can get him, whatever. But he's an RFA. He's 26. He can play both sides. He was consistently on the third pair for Vegas, which is fine because they have one of the best blue line depth in the league. But looking at the underlying metrics, well, first of all, let me say I understand why the Flyers like him because Joe, as you say, he big. He's 6'5", 6'6". But looking at their defensive pairs throughout the season, like Theodore McNabb, Hannafin, Pietrangelo were the big ones. Hannafin, Whitecloud. Then all those expected goals percentage, 52, 55, 56. Then you get to Hague Whitecloud, 49%. Hague Pietrangelo, 47%. Hague Korzak, 47%. He looks like, just a defensive defenseman, like that's big. And I don't know if I'm speaking out of my ass here. I haven't watched enough Golden Knights, but like I'd almost rather just have Nick Sealer on what we have back there.
I feel the same way. I'm trying to pull it up. I think he got like less ice time this year too, because after they acquired Noah Hannafin, he played less. But I don't know. I don't get it. He big, and that's about it. And I wouldn't want to give up. The only winger I'd be willing to give up is our Nick Deslauriers. A Nick for Nick swap.
Yeah. So looking at this past season, he played 1660 a night. I think that's 17 minutes. I'm not sure why it says 1660 on Hockey Reference. Played 18 and a half minutes per game the year before and 18 minutes the year before that. So yeah, his ice time was down. Still didn't play too well. I guess having a big body back there, especially if Ristolainen isn't playing, and if teams are interested in Zamula, like I guess I would rather have him in that Zamula spot. Cap wages projecting a 2-year, $2.6 million deal for him. Whatever. I'm just not giving up Bobby Brink. I'm not giving up.
No.
Even like a Garnett Hathaway would be like a little bit too much for me to give up for what he means. And you can probably get better from elsewhere. But I guess that would be an understandable swap, giving Vegas, a winger, a depth winger at a similar price, $2.4 million for a defenseman, because their defense is locked up with Pietrangelo, Theodore, Hannafin, McNabb, Whitecloud. Then they have Hutton, Korzak there for the six guys. So
what about Pelletier for Hague?
I saw someone mention this in the Slack. Like Pelletier seems like the guy that would go to Vegas and just score 20 goals, and we would regret giving up. Like I feel like I want to see more of him full off season. Knowing what he's coming into. I think he's too much of a wild card to give up on. Like I would give maybe like a third round pick, second round pick, like something like that if the Flyers really want him that bad. But I'm not giving up Brink or Pelletier even.
I don't think either Brink or Pellets fit with the Golden Knights model.
No.
Like they're a big team. They're aggressive, and I don't think those two, both under 5'10", are gonna fit the mold there. As far as defensemen that are available, there are rumors around Keandre Miller on the Rangers. He, however, would probably cost you a lot more to acquire. But the ceiling is certainly higher than with Nic Hague.
Yeah, he would cost a lot more, not only because he's a better player with a better ceiling, but I think the Rangers wouldn't want to deal him necessarily in division where he can, turn the corner and become a top pair defenseman for, one of their biggest rivals that's, up and coming. So if he's out there, maybe you could go a 3-way trade and the Rangers don't know about it, but he would be much better to get than Nic Hague. But I think Hathaway is a guy that could be moved this offseason. Hathaway, Paling, Sealer, maybe not to Vegas, but I think a team like Carolina needs guys like that. And that's what the Flyers are becoming. They're becoming a team that every player is going to be a player that a team wants for the playoffs. So like Hathaway, like Carolina's just missing that grit factor, that bigger factor, that like willing to do anything that Hathaway does, that Sealer does. He's willing to get into the scrums, fight anybody. Like I feel like the Flyers can maybe take advantage of the Hurricanes, but then again, it's Dr. T down there, so we wonder how much he'll let that happen.
I don't think Hathaway gets traded. His extension kicks in this summer. That would be stupid for them to just trade him immediately. Paling, on the other hand, I could see Paling going at the deadline because it's the last year of his contract. Theoretically, Jet Luchenko or maybe one of the other centers in the with the Phantoms would be ready to come up and start playing in the NHL at the end of the season. Well, wait, no, Luchenko wouldn't be with the Phantoms. He'd still be with the OHL, presumably. But Barkey, maybe, or someone else would be able to come up and fill that Paling role for the rest of the season if he's traded at the deadline. Because apparently teams were calling about him at this deadline just to see. So I can't see their disinterest going away,
Yeah, I could see Paling being moved this offseason if the Flyers do go out and get a center like a Rossi or one of the better free agent centers, like a Duchesne or Granlund. But I'm fine having Paling and having him around, till the deadline, seeing what happens there. Him and Zamula both are free agents after this year.
And Brink.
Yes. Brink is also an RFA with arbitration eligible, it says there, after this year. Speaking of RFAs, we still do have Jacob Pelletier and Cam York are RFAs that need to sign. I think Cam York is going to be the biggest hurdle because he's one of the players that you look at, you're like, okay, I was listening to Flyperbole and Steve was like, I want some sort of professionalism out of York. Like, don't cross the line with torts. Like, and I see that to some extent. It's like, all right, you hate torts, but rein it in a little bit. We don't know what happened. We don't know what actually happened, but I like Cam York. I like Cam York on the ice. He's never going to put up huge offensive numbers like we thought when he was drafted, but he's a very good second pair, possibly a good first pair defenseman that, you don't hear his name when he's on the ice. And that's what you want. That's what you want out of a solid two-way guy.
I've said it before that we were sold an offensive second pair defenseman when he was drafted. He's not that. He's a defensive defenseman who maybe has more offense to be unlocked, but we don't like him. Well, I do. I'm a York fan. I don't think they should trade him, but fans struggle with that because they're like, oh, where's the offense? That's what we were told about. And it's like, well, he's a different player than what you were told he is. He's a good player, just different from what you expected. That doesn't make him bad because he's different from your expectations. I'm wondering if part of the delay is that he's like really keen to go long term, and Briere is like, that's not how we operate. You get a bridge, and then we can talk about long term.
I got a bridge to sell you.
I got a bridge to sell you.
Yeah.
And now that Foerster is done, bridge deal. Cates, 4 years. I imagine Pelletier is probably going to get a bridge too. Like, maybe it's just like, look, we'll wait this out, but we've bridged the other guys. You're going to get one too. But as far as the professionalism thing goes, I don't care. 3 years of John Tortorella, you wouldn't be pissed off and snap at him at one point, like,
no, you would.
Especially when he's talking about like, well, we don't know. Maybe he was like, I'm gonna bury you, or like, you'll never play for me again, or like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
It was towards his time, and one of the players with his whole chest said, yo, it's your time. So
get
maybe they like that.
Get the step in, yeah.
Maybe they like that. He stood up for himself. Like, well, you didn't do it quite the right way, but we appreciate that you did it.
Yeah, but York is one of the only players that wasn't drafted by Briere and hasn't signed an extension with Briere and like has never been truly in trade rumors. Like that's the only reason. Like I feel like people are like, oh, maybe he gets moved. He wants long-term deals. That's not Danny's MO. So there's a disconnect there. But looking at the rest of the blue line, like Sanheim.
Also, before we move on from this, Brent Flair is still with the Flyers and he runs the draft. So to say, oh, he wasn't a Briere pick, he was a Flair pick. Like there's enough like degree of separation here to be. He's basically a Danny pick at this point because he's kept Flair.
Yeah, anyway, there's enough overlap there where it's still the same main group. It's not the head honcho isn't the same. So
sure.
But yeah, looking at the defense, you got Sanheim, great. But then Risto always hurt. Never sure what's going to happen. Hopefully, it gets moved at some point. Sealer, Drysdale, Zamula, York. And you got Bonk coming up. You got McDonald. You got whoever else you want to talk about there. But if you take York out of that group, it's looking even worse than it already is.
Bad. Yeah.
Especially if you get rid of York and bring in Nic Hague instead. Like that's just a huge downgrade.
I feel like people won't realize how much they would miss York until he's actually gone.
Yeah.
Like maybe when he was injured to start last season, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like things didn't look right without him in the lineup when he missed that month. So I don't know. I'm not open to it. There was a PHLY episode, I think last week, where Bill was like, oh yeah, I'd trade Oliver Bonk in a first for Marco Rossi. And I'm like, what is he or like, oh yeah, I'd trade Jägersvragen. I wouldn't trade Alex Bump, but I was like, oh, I was losing it. I won't trade Alex Bump, a 5th round pick, for Marco Rossi, but I would trade Oliver Bonk.
Because we've seen Bump. We've seen how aggressive he is. But yeah, York is a guy that if he were to get moved, it would be to a good team. He plays second pair, and that team would go on to make a deep playoff run. Whether it's Florida, Vegas, LA, who knows? Like maybe he goes back to Anaheim. He's an Anaheim boy. Maybe you trade him for Zegras or McTavish or Carlson. That would be great. But Gauthier, yeah, you need a scoring winger. Yeah.
Imagine.
I think Cam York's going to get done. It's just a matter of what will they do? Will they go long? Will they go short? He is arbitration eligible, I believe. I think that's what this little gavel means. So hopefully it doesn't go that far. But that is the only one left, and there'll be a bigger microscope on him because Foerster and Cates are already signed. Be like, all right, York, you going to sign too? Like, what are we going to do here? But that, I imagine, it'll happen. We'll see if rumors come out about it, but we'll talk about it when it happens there.
Looking at the RFAs for next summer, it does present an interesting quandary for Jamie Drysdale because he'll be an RFA, arbitration eligible RFA. Do they go bridge again? Probably not, because he'll be 24, 25, so they'll have to sign him long term at that point, or trade him by the end of this year. But I can't see that. They invested too much in him.
Yeah, I don't think they can give up on Drysdale. That is interesting. RFA next year, it'll be 24, 25. Maybe you sign him to a 5-6 year deal then if he shows enough this season, and if he doesn't, you just all right. We're dry guys here. We're dry guys here.
All right.
The other hard news that happened while we were gone, Ian LaPerriere, I believe when we were recording, it was rumored or reported that he would not be returning behind the bench, but he's in some sort of advisory role. Whatever. Sure.
They like him as a developer, right? And if he is just hanging out with the prospects, fine. Yeah. I don't care. Let him hang out. Just
hang out at rookie camp, hang out at development camp. Yeah, they'd be like, all right, put your face in front of the puck.
Put your face in front of the prospects so they can see what it means to be a Flyer.
Yes.
Yeah. Whatever. We don't have any updates on the AHL coach, right? I don't think anything.
I don't believe so. I don't think so there. And the other thing happened today. The Flyers hired 2 assistant coaches under Rick Tocchet. You got Yaroslav Svitovsky, who was with him in Vancouver, ran the power play, and then Jay Verardi, who was with him in Arizona as more of like a kind of like a analytics translator, from what I understand. What I said there. So still looking for a guy to run the PK, to run the defense, but Tocchet's bringing his guy from Vancouver, and fans are like, all right, whatever. It's not a former Flyer.
Yeah, I'm cool with the power play guy. I don't know. It's power play in Vancouver was like middle pack, but Pettersson, Hughes, and Miller. So Pettersson and Hughes both missed a bunch of time, and then Miller got traded. So I can understand kind of the struggles there. But yeah, can't be worse than Rocky Thompson, really, at this point.
It can't be. I'm trying to see if he coached anywhere before. Doesn't look like it, unless it's
Yogi?
not on his Wikipedia here. No, the Yaroslav guy.
Yeah, Yogi. His nickname is Yogi.
Oh, Yogi. Yes, sorry. Yeah, that's yeah. He coached last year with the Canucks. Obviously, former first-round pick by the Capitals. Played in the NHL in the late '90s. So yeah, I mean, like you said, can't be worse than Rocky. So yeah, upgrade there.
Big time. And then Verity. How do you say his name?
I don't know if I've heard anyone say it yet. So we'll go with
Jimmy
V there. Jimmy V. JV.
Junior Varsity. There we go. That's his name. Junior Varsity. Yeah, no, I'm cool to have like a more analytics, data-driven guy in. I'm glad that Tocchet approves of having a guy like that around. Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah, he was with Detroit last year. I know we're not really a big fan of the Red Wings, but we're not a fan of how the Red Wings hand out contracts. Their coaching stuff, I don't know if we know enough to be there, but
trade away defensemen that are now studs on a Stanley Cup Final team.
Yeah, Jake Wallman. What a move there by the Oilers.
And by the Red Wings to pay to get rid of him.
Yeah,
just unbelievable. That was a Chuck Fletcher special. I don't know. I know he's with the Devils, but I'm sure he must have called up Yzerman and been like, Stevie, listen, here's what you got to do. You got to send your good defenseman to a rebuilding team with a second-round pick. It's brilliant. Nobody will ever see it coming.
Yeah. Speaking of the Devils, former Flyers going there, Brad Shaw is going to be an assistant coach under Sheldon Keefe, working with Luke Hughes, working with Dougie Hamilton, working with all these young defensemen there. So that could be a move that comes back to haunt the Flyers.
I mean, Shaw was the one who decided not to come back, but I mean, they better be right about Tocchet. It's what we said about the Luchenko pick over Bouillon. It's like, okay, you got your guy, you better be right. So you got Tocchet, you better be right about it.
All right, other rumors that we can get into here. Let's discuss the Risto quote unquote rumors. I forget what insider said it, that apparently the Leafs offered a haul. Oh yeah, it was a Senator. It was a Bruce Garowitz or something from the Ottawa Sun, I believe.
And not a haul, the moon.
Leafs offered the moon for Ristolainen, which I don't know what the moon could have been, because they got Carlo for Fraser Minton and a first or maybe in a second, and Carlo's better than Ristolainen and was healthy. And then someone, I think it was Charlie O'Connor, refuted that. He was like, I don't know what the Leafs idea of the moon was, but it was not the haul that the Flyers wanted.
I think there also had to be retention involved, and
the
Flyers didn't have a retention slot because they've got the Kevin Hayes one locked up for like 2 more years, which is just crazy. And then maybe they could have done it, but then Los Angeles called them that morning and it's like, hey, we'll give you a third for Andrei Kuzmenko if you retain 50%. And Danny was like, okay, that's great. And then they retained on Lawton. So all 3 of their slots are taken up. One of them will reopen this summer because Kuzmenko comes off the books. So maybe they can trade Risto later this year, but he's hurt. Yeah, whatever the moon was, the way Charlie reports it is the Flyers were surprised by how little interest there was in Risto at the deadline. And whatever the moon was is not what the Flyers have in mind for their return for Risto.
Yeah.
A first round pick, I think, is the minimum. That's like
easily.
get in the door.
The good thing is teams are still interested in Ristolainen. I mean, I believe that was mentioned because the Senators need a right-hand shot defenseman that's bigger, and Risto fits that bill. We'd love to get Shane Pinto or someone like that out of Ottawa, the Beans, for the get some center depth there. So we'll keep an eye on if Ristolainen even can be traded this summer because he's hurt, and we'll see.
I mean, he's not Jack Eichel. But Vegas traded for Eichel before he had the surgery. Like, they knew he was going to miss most of the season. They were like, screw it.
That's true. But
so maybe with Risto, they'll just be like, we'll tough it out for the first couple weeks and then be good to go.
Yeah, that's Jack Eichel though. It's not Rasmus Ristolainen. I think it was
both former Sabres.
Both former Sabres. They can go elsewhere and win a cup maybe.
I mean, Jeff Skinner might.
Yeah. The other, I guess the biggest rumors around the Flyers in recent weeks and recent months is Marco Rossi. The pending RFA, or the RFA now, for the Minnesota Wild center. A report from RG Media said that linked him to the Flyers, but then the Wild GM came out and denied a report saying that he asked Flyers for Tyson Foerster or one of the late first-round picks. Says names come up all the time, but there's never been any serious discussion with anybody yet. So I imagine they've had talks. It's just a matter of what, there's been no official offers or names discussed or anything. But like, I'd easily give up the Flyers' second pick in the first round for Marco Rossi.
So there's two things at work here. First is the cost of acquisition. Second is negotiating with Rossi's agent.
Yes.
I cannot see the Flyers, after they just bridged Tyson Foerster, as they're trying to probably bridge Cam York, signing a guy who's never played for the Flyers to a 7-year deal. I can't see them doing it. So they're probably they would have to do a bridge, and I'm not sure Rossi would be like cool with that.
No.
Yeah. I also wonder if the Flyers want to hold on to their firsts because they want to see if they can trade up. Like they value them not for necessarily as trade fodder, but to move up in the draft. Maybe we see a deal on draft day. Maybe like they get to pick 21, the Avs pick, and they call up Minnesota and they're like, "Hey, we our guy's off the board. We'll do the Rossi pick. We'll do the Rossi trade." But again, that comes down to they need to have a deal with Marco Rossi's camp in place for a bridge deal, right? I don't know. There's more moving parts than just straight trade asset for player.
Yeah. That's a good point to bring up, because apparently he wants 7 years, $7 million for that, and the Flyers, Danny Briere has not handed out a contract like that to anyone that's on the Flyers. So, like you said, Tippett, yeah. But yeah, Marco Rossi. People are like, oh yeah, last year 60 points. Year before that, 40 points. This past year, primarily played with Boldy and Zuccarello and Kaprizov and Zuccarello, and then Johansson and Hartman for a bit. And, got 60 points. Shooting percentage went up to 17.6 from 12.6 the year before. So I guess they're a little bit wary that he could, regress to that 55 point range. Yeah. And then maybe they don't want to give up a pick because, like you said, if they can trade up and get someone like McQueen that falls down the board into the teens, they can use their 2 picks for that. But the Wild don't have a first round pick this year. If the Flyers don't like who's on the board, the Wild want to get into the first round. Maybe they come talking to the Flyers, as long as that contract is in place there. I'm trying to look up who Marco Rossi's agent is. I'm not sure if you have.
It's not Kurt Overhart.
It's not Kurt Overhart.
He does. I think that agent does have a player on the Flyers, though. But I can't remember who it was.
I think so as well. Trying to checking different sites here to see who his agent is, but no one's really listing it. But yeah, I think it's not Kurt Overhart. That's really all that matters there. But yeah, the Flyers could be worried about Rossi being too small. I think he's 5'10", 5'11", so he's like
he's smaller than that.
He's
5'9",
5'9", 182. So yeah, maybe it depends maybe it depends who the Flyers get with pick 6, and like you said, who falls down if they want to have any potential trades there. But Marco Rossi, I would be very interested in, especially if it's just a late first or somehow a second. Like that would be easily grab him up.
I mean, part of it is like everybody in the league knows the Wild aren't going to sign him to the contract he's asked for. He doesn't want to be there after they used him the third least amount of time in the playoffs. Like maybe it's just, I think we could get him for less because you guys have backed yourselves into a corner where you have no choice but to trade him. And, you know, you've created your own problem, and we're going to capitalize by just sending you a late second round pick because everybody knows you got to trade this guy.
I think, though, the Wild would then wait and be hopeful that someone offer sheets him and they get an
second round pick
next year. Or what are the offer sheet compensation? That's because, like, I don't think he would sign for a for what the second round pick is.
Here's the thing: he doesn't have any contract. Like, if a team is willing to pay him the max for the second round pick offer sheet, like, you know,
$4.6 million is the second round pick, and cap wages for a bridge deal 2 years by 4.5. So if the Flyers offer him 2 years by 4.6, just give up a second round pick for him. Yeah, but anything above that, up to $7 million, is a first and a third. Above 7 to 9 is a first, a second, and a third. So
yeah. So every team in the league knows that if he goes to, if it's July 1st, hasn't been traded and doesn't have a contract, then they can start talking offer sheet. And I imagine all of them are going to try and sign him to that same 4.6 threshold deal.
Yeah.
And he just gets to pick which place he goes. The Wild aren't going to match it. They get a second round pick for next year's draft instead of just taking a second round pick in this year's draft for him.
That's true there. And then at that point, you're like, all right, we'll give you a second and a third. It's better than you're getting or a second and a prospect. It's better than just getting a second round pick and a potential offer sheet there. So,
and being embarrassed by having your player offer sheeted out from under you.
Yeah, for $4.6 million. Yeah. So Rossi's going to be the hot name for the Flyers until something happens with him or with the Flyers getting another center there.
Yeah. We've talked about the draft a little bit. Briere had some comments on this draft.
Briere had some quotes from the scouting combine that was, I believe, started this week. He said, we might look to move up, but it might not make sense. We might move to the future. There's so many possibilities, but we're also excited to pick where we are. And at the moment, we're doing the work as if we're going to pick in those slots. Basically, we're open for anything. We'll use our picks. We'll trade them to move up. We'll trade them for players. Whatever is the best scenario, whatever is the best value.
Say the line.
What is the line? The line is, well, it has to make sense.
It has to make sense.
It has to make sense. He'll do the thing that makes the most sense for the Flyers. That's basically what his motto has been. So, having said that, Joe, I know you have looked at the draft guide a little bit more than I have.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on who you might want or not want at 6?
So I understand how badly the Flyers need a center. If Porter Martone is available at 6, I am running to the stage. I started watching the tape on him, been reading the scouting profiles. Holy shit. He would be so good here because he is a playmaker. He doesn't look like it because of his frame, but he is so good at passing and finding his teammates. We need that. We need a setup guy. We have so many quote unquote goal scorers. We need a setup guy. And secondly, most of his goals are scored. Where do you think they're all scored?
Are they scored in front?
Right in front of the fucking net. Guess where the Flyers cannot score from? He brings the elements that they need. I know he's a winger, but Christ, if your top line has Martone at his peak with Michkov on the other side, or even Konechny, you're looking at a really dynamic top line, even if your center is Jeluchenko. Could it be better?
Yeah.
Yes, of course it could, but that's still pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's I'm not sure what the EP player comp had for him, but everyone's saying like, oh, he's like kind of like getting like a Chuck there. And captain for the Brampton Steelheads, 98 points this past year, 1 point in 3 World Juniors games. I believe he got hurt there. 9 points in 6 playoff games. Like big winger, he big, 6'3",
his
playmaker, like you said. Like
his player comps are Blake Wheeler and Mikko Rantanen.
I would take a Mikko Rantanen. I would take a Blake Wheeler. Blake Wheeler's fine. Yeah. So which centers would you take him over?
I'm
take him
kind
over
of
Frondell or Desnoyers?
I'd take him over Frondell for sure, I think. Because I'm not convinced Frondell's a center. Like, he might just be a winger. Yeah. I also don't want to say the ceiling for Frondell is not that high, because he's probably going to be a really good TC, but I don't know. I've always been kind of wishy-washy on Frondell. Desnoyers, boy, that's tough. I would probably take Hagens over Martone.
Yes.
If it's Desnoyers or Martone, that's a really difficult conversation.
I don't think it's a conversation worth having, because I think if Desnoyers is there for the Flyers want Desnoyers, and Desnoyers wants to play for the Flyers. So
well, I think they want Porter Martone as well. Like, let's be honest, that's a model an archetype that they love, right? Because Martone can play it any way he wants. If you want him to be a more physical guy like a Mikko Rantanen, well, is Mikko Rantanen that physical? I guess he's not like crash and bang, but unless you're Gabe Landeskog and he just buries you, or no, Landeskog buried him.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he's not physical, but he's like someone that can carry the puck through the zone. Like you can good entries. Like you can forecheck if he has to, hopefully. But yeah, Martone versus, if Martone and Desnoyers are both there, we might see Danny Briere and Keith Jones getting into a heated argument over which one to get.
That's going to be that would be a tough decision. I'd take Hagens in any situation there, or Misa, obviously, but I'm not. Yeah. I'm not holding my breath for that. Hey, I'm still like banging the drum that the Sharks want to reunite the Eklund brothers in San Jose, and they can't do it at 2. That would be stupid. Mm-hmm. But they trade back to 6 to draft Victor Eklund.
Yeah,
that would be fun. Stupid for them probably, but fun for everyone else. But yeah, Jake O'Brien has a lot of cool stuff. He's also really a great passer, but he's riskier. I probably wouldn't take him at 6. And I wouldn't trade back either. That would be no. I said that would be dumb last year, and I think it would also be dumb this year.
I mean, there's a scenario where it makes sense if there's a Beckett Seneca that goes above. If like Martone, Desnoyers, and Jake O'Brien are still there, they can trade back 3 spots, and they know someone behind them wants like a defenseman to come up and get. Like, there's a scenario where it has to make sense. It has to make sense there. But yeah, I was just thinking, imagine a scenario where Martone, Desnoyers, and are both there, and they take like Jake O'Brien or Brady Martin. Like, fans would absolutely riot once. In that scenario, I think they trade down, but I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't think they're going to take Brady Martin. Like, if Brady Martin's still there in the teens, maybe they would trade up to take him, but I don't think they would take him at 6. I know there are mocks sending Martin to the Flyers, but these people, these national guys aren't keeping up with the current front office. That's not how they operate. They're just following the old script,
Yeah, and the mocks now, they're just cycling through the potential scenarios that happen. Like, at this point, there's so much in the air. Like, and of course, people are once again saying, "Oh, I think this is going to be the year a top 5 pick is moved. Watch these teams," and that never happens, because if a GM trades their top 5 pick and the trade is a bust, that's your job. That's your ass right there on the line.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. It's going to be interesting because outside the top 6 or 7 players, the boards and consensus are all over the place. So some guys are going to go higher than people expected. Some guys are going to drop. I can understand why the Flyers are reticent to give up their first round picks now. They want to see what's on the board before they start making those kinds of decisions. But it'll be fun. There's some other players on my radar, but yeah, go ahead.
Before I was just about to ask you that for anything else, but I was gonna say with Brady Martin, with him like rising up the ranks, I could see a team. I forget what the draft order is, but like the Mammoth, like going for him instead of Higgins, like going for the exciting high rising guy rather than Higgins, who's like been dropping down the order.
Yeah, I mean, the Mammoth already have a lot of players like Higgins in their system, so I can understand why they are not a lot, but Logan Cooley is the comp for Higgins, and they have Logan Cooley. So, also, they were originally planning to draft in the teens, and then they moved up, and they're like, well, we like the guys that we had in the teens. Now we got to figure something else out. The big one is Roger McQueen, who is apparently healthy. It's still a risk. If he's there in the teens, yeah, you move up, but I don't think he's going to make it that far. I don't think he's going to make it out of the top 10. One of the teams in the top 10 is going to bite on him. Maybe the Flyers.
I think they have to. But looking at who might bite on him, I guess Anaheim could. They could take a big swing and go for him. I don't know if Boston could, because
Pittsburgh would.
Boston needs to Boston and Pittsburgh are both in interesting spots where they really need to rebuild, but the contracts that they have, I mean, Pittsburgh still has Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Carlson, new coach in Boston as well, but they have Swayman, they have Pasternak, like they're not going to be rebuilding. So I guess maybe it makes sense for them to take that big swing. If it works out, you're just retooling right on the fly there, but maybe they want a more sure thing to kind of, get their prospect cupboard going there.
I think it's worth noting too that outside of maybe Misa or maybe Martone, I don't think any of these players are going to make the NHL next year. Like none of them are ready for it. So even if you take a swing on McQueen, he's not going to be in the NHL for at least a year, maybe 2.
I could see, I think Misa will probably play in the NHL, especially if the Sharks take him. They did that with Celebrini last year. Obviously, Celebrini was number 1, but I think Misa could, slot in behind them if they get a veteran to play with them. But yeah, there's no clear like McDavid or McKenna this year. Yeah,
Bedard.
Bedard. And McQueen apparently was misdiagnosed, and he was rehabbing the wrong injury. He says he feels 100%. We'll see how the tests come out for him. So I would be very excited to see Briere take a big swing on McQueen.
It would be fun. As for other guys that I think they could maybe, I don't know if they'll drop to 21, but if they are there, or like I would like to trade up for, Carter Bear has pinged on my radar, and I'm like, oh, he'd be really fun. I don't know if he'll be available in the teens. The EP has him ranked 8th.
Does he have an injury issue as well? Yes.
Oh,
he's not doing fitness testing at the scouting combine.
That's right. Mm-hmm. But he's like the EP guide has his player comp as Seth Jarvis or Brandon Hagel. And they, instead of got that dog in him, they say he's got that bear in him. And
love it.
Got that bear in him. So I think he'd be, and he's a left wing, so a position of need. I really like the idea of him being there. Who else has popped up? I really like Bill Zonin. I don't think he'll be, I wouldn't make that pick at 21, but if he's there at the Edmonton pick or on day 2, I'd absolutely be in on him. Riker Lee is someone who's caught my attention, not on day 1, but maybe on day 2. And then Colin Potter, if he's there at 21, I'd make that pick all day, probably. He's a speedy center, smallish, so I don't know if he fits the Flyers mold, but he'd be a great pickup.
Lee Prospects has him listed as a left wing on their consolidated rankings. They have center / left wing in the draft guide there. Playing at Arizona State University, so it's already playing against older players for Colin Potter.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's good guys down there at board. I'm sure we'll talk about them more in the coming weeks. I'll try to read through this draft guide light, where it doesn't have all the scouting reports, just the basic stuff there. We're going to try to get on some guests as well that have been digging into the draft boards. Jacob Russell and Cole Keller, hopefully, maybe get Maddie on as well for a little draft roundtable before the thing, because that's the big thing now. 3 weeks till the draft, so we got to start
Stanley Cup. But then the draft.
Well, for the Flyers, for teams that aren't the Panthers and the Oilers, we got to talk about all these guys that we think the Flyers might draft, and then they'll go draft this year's Chetluchenko.
Yeah, of course, makes perfect sense. They'll reach on Brady Martin, and we'll all just die.
All right, before we finish it, I want to shout out the London Knights. Denver Barkey.
Way to go.
Denver Barkey is looking like a dog. He really is. I can't wait to see him at the AHL, at the NHL level in a few years. Oliver Bonk, obviously there as well. Caleb Drenoy, I think, made the final or made the semifinal of the Memorial Cup with Moncton. So that's a possibility there. And yeah, I mean, the Flyers just have these prospects that might not be ready this coming season, but the Phantom should be fun. And they're restocking. So that's really, really exciting.
Look, I get the impatience of fans. Like, we want to see them in the NHL. We're playing the long game here, folks.
Yeah.
I've said it before. If we're banking on Yegor Zavragin coming in and being our Igor Shesterkin, our Ilya Sorokin, they didn't play 50-plus NHL games until they were 26 years old, both of them. Shesterkin didn't come to North America until he was 24, and Sorokin was 25. We're waiting, unless Zavragin is Vasilevsky and can just play 60 games as a 22-year-old, which I doubt. We might not see him until the 2030 season, which for reference, the 2030 season, Sean Couturier will no longer be a Flyer. His last year of his contract is 2029-30. So there's a chance that Zavragin and Couturier never play on the same team. Just to give you a bit of perspective about how long some of this might take. So anyway.
Yeah,
but I think that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, obviously it's going to be exciting to watch Michkov and whoever the Flyers get to play with him next season. But the rookie camp, the rookie games, the training camp games are going to be exciting to see these guys in Flyer sweaters, even if it's just a game or two, just to see them out there on the ice at the Xbox down there in South Philly.
The Xbox,
yes.
The Icebox.
The Icebox. All right.
Ooh,
Icebox.
It doesn't really make sense.
We'll think of something. Xbox is good. It's no Farg, but it's good. It's good.
It's too many syllables.
Yeah, it needs to be one syllable. The X. Go down to because that's a website now that we don't want to talk about.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that. But speaking of that website, Gilbs, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at RyanGilbert.bsky.social. Come on over there. For hockey talk. I'm trying to live skeet some of these games here or there. So come on over on the Blue Sky. How about you, Joe?
I'm also on Blue Sky at JFDeMarini.bsky.social. I will also try and live tweet hockey games when I am not doing other things.
Yes,
I should be home for tomorrow, so that'll be fine.
All right, make sure you subscribe to the Broad Street Hockey Podcast on YouTube, on Apple, Spotify. Leave us 5-star ratings and reviews, nice comments. We appreciate all that stuff. BroadStreetHockey.com, of course. Read, like, and subscribe there. Plenty of content leading up to the draft and the offseason. So until next time, thanks for listening.
Go Flyers.